for people who can't be here in case they want to see what we were doing. So what I have open right now is Canvas, and we're going to go into the labs section. There's under pages, lab files, and we're going to use the Siskel and Ebert Excel file. Okay, so this is, again, it's more education-related data, and it includes the on-track and GPA information, but this one doesn't include any of the sex or gender information. But one of the things we are going to look at is this variable GPA category. So we're going to do some sorting by that. And then we have, similarly to for your homework, there are 4 tabs down here. And we have 2 different schools. So we have E-School for Ebert, and we have 2 years for that. We have 2013 and 2014. And then we have the Siskel School, which is 2013 and 2014. And the code book here is in case you wanted to know how any of these, what any of these particular variables mean. So we're going to start on the first tab. For Ebert 2013. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sort the data. So you're going to want to go to, you guys look like mostly Macs. I'm up here with a PC. I hope it's not too different, but you want to highlight all of your data to make sure that it all gets sorted. If you only highlight one column, it'll only sort that column, and then things will become separated from the other because they're each, row is a student. So then you're going to go to sort and filter on the ribbon here, and we're going to go to custom sort. So the first thing that you want to click is my data has headers. It's a little box there. So that it knows that the categories that you're going to be sorting on are located there. So we are going to sort by GPA category. And that's only one we're going to do. You could put multiple levels of sorting if you wanted to then sort by student ID or something else. For example, you could sort by male and female, and then sort by on-track status. So that'll put first all of your males and females separate, and then separate them by on-track status, 0 or 1. Yeah. Oh, it's up on the. Do you have a ribbon for like a toolbar on the top? For mine, it's all the way on the right. Sort and filter. Yeah, so you just click that. Yeah, custom sort. And then click my data has headers. And then select, you're going to sort by GPA category. And we're going to keep it sorting from A to Z. So the A's will be at the top, the F's at the bottom. If it were a number, you could either sort ascending or descending. So like, depending on what kind of variable it is. Okay, so now it's sorted, and we are going to start by creating a frequency table of how many students fall into each GPA category. So just wanna make sure I'm following my own notes. Okay. So how we're first going to do that is, since we already sorted them, we know they're in order, so all the A's are going to be together. So we can start just by highlighting and seeing how far down the A's go. Just scroll down And we see that at row 58, we switch from A to B. So we're going to go and start a table over here to the right. We'll call it, just use the first cell, frequency. And in the next one, we're going to put A, because that's what we're counting right now. And then we're going to do our first formula. So in the cell to the right of A, we're going to put equals count. And then you're going to put parentheses and highlight all of the things all the way down to row 58 where it changes. And then you hit enter. Oops, that didn't work. We're going to try CountA. So I can't remember what the difference between count and CountA is, but CountA is counting all of the cells that where it's not missing. So then we can do the same thing for B. And we're going to scroll down to where the B's start. So, so in this cell, we'll start with the equals CountA parentheses. Then you have to be careful not to click anywhere else because it's going to think that that's where you're wanting to count until you scroll down and get to your B's. Then you're going to click first on the cell 59 in column F. And then you're just going to drag it down and keep scrolling until you get to the C's. Then you hit enter. So we have 57 A's, 87 B's. We'll do the same thing for C. Equals. Yeah, so it's actually, it's CountA.
Oh, CountA, okay.
Yeah. And then the parentheses is for that range that you want it to. Anybody else having issues?
Just did like a problem sign. It says A question mark.
Okay, so that means that there is an error in your formula. So what the first cell should look like, it should be equals CountA parentheses, and then this is the range of cells. It's F2 colon F58.
Is that something I was supposed to type in? Or is that something you get from selecting?
I took it from selecting, but for the next one, once we figure out how far this all goes down and how many people there are in each of these groups, then we can type it in. But as of right now, we don't know where it changes yet because they're not evenly distributed. So then when you go to look at the B's, you know you're going to start at F59 and then scroll down till you get to the C's and so on. Okay. D's and oops. finally go down with the F's. So this is a, sort of time-intensive way of doing it. You wouldn't necessarily want to do this if you had like a whole bunch of cases, like if you're dealing with big data and you have like thousands of cases, you're not going to hand scroll through everything. But this is also just to reiterate what exactly we're counting here. So another way that you can do this is by using a frequency command. So you can put in equals frequency, and then you're going to select all the way to the very end. So starting with F2 colon F, and if we can remember what it was all the way at the end, 351 to F351, comma, A in quotation marks, which is important because it is looking for the letter A. You know what? That might be the mistake I made. Uh-oh. I just did this in preparation. I'm not sure what happened. Oh, I know what it was. Okay, so instead of going individually by A, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, D, F, we select all the things that we want it to sort into. So the quotation marks are going to highlight, actually maybe we don't need the quotes. The A, B, C, D, E, F, and well, this is not going as planned. I apologize. Well, good thing we know how to do it by hand the other way. One thing that is definitely true of Excel is that there are lots of shortcuts and multiple ways that you can do different things, and you certainly can get a frequency table by using the frequency command. Apparently, I just have forgotten from literally like 2 hours ago when I planned to do this, what exactly needs to be typed in there in order to get that. But we already did it by hand, so we're good. So the next thing that we might want to know is what % of the total each of these grade categories represents. So we can get a sum of how many students there are overall by adding up our frequencies. And we can do that by, not that one, by using the AutoSum function, which is on my computer under the Formulas tab. And you can just press that and it will automatically sum all of the cells that aren't missing that are directly above it. So if you have some blanks in there, the AutoSum won't work. It's going to just do all the numbers that are up to it. But you can still, even if you don't want to do the AutoSum, you can still just type the formula sum and then put in your range. In this case, it is I 3 through 7, and you get the same number. So then we'll have a new column here for our percents. So what we want to take is we want to divide, so we're going to put equals the number that our A, slash is for divided by, our total, which is down here in I8. And that will give us our percent. Yeah, it's I3, so that's this cell here, divided by I8, which is this cell down here that was the total. And then one of the things that is cool in Excel is that when you want it to repeat functions across different rows like that, you can use a fill down. And so it knows that for the next row, it's going to take the next values. But the problem is that if we do this here, we fill down 1, it doesn't make sense because it's taking this next row divided by I9. It's adding 1 to everything. So what we can do to make this work is we can add a $sign in between the I and the 8 to indicate that when we fill down, we want it to keep that constant, keep dividing by that 350 rather than the next one and the next one and the next one. And now, when we fill down, it works. And then just to check our work, we can do another AutoSum and see that it adds up to 100%. The filling down. Yep. So this was our error. So we went and we added the $sign between the I and the 8. And then there's a little like extra square on the bottom right hand corner, and then it makes a plus up here when you hover over that, and then you just drag it down for the rows that you want it to apply to. You could also alternatively just type the formula in to each one of those cells. I'll do the same thing. Okay, so we have our frequency table. And then the next thing that we might want to know is the proportion of students in each of these GPA categories who is on track. So we're going to make a similar table, so we'll just copy this column right here. I use Control-C and then Control-V to paste it. Sometimes pasting in Excel gets finicky. It'll say that you haven't picked the right size of place to paste things, but usually just picking a blank cell works. The other thing that can be tricky when you're pasting things in Excel is, so for example, if I copy these formulas and I paste them down here, it's going to all go to 0 because it went to the relative, just like we filled down, into a different place. So what you can do is go to your paste options, and there's paste values. So you can just keep the values. And it doesn't even have the formula there anymore. It's just the number that you calculated. So if you want to make sure that it doesn't accidentally get changed, if you change something else, you can always paste your values, and you know that that'll remain constant. Okay, but to see how many or what proportion of students in each category are on track, we can do an average. So we can take, so on this, let's see. So we can look and know that the range of the A's from when we first did them for our frequency was F2 to F58. We can, which is applies to row 2 to row 58, and we'll use that same range to calculate our average. So we'll go equals average parentheses, only instead of doing F2, we want to look at column B, which lists the on-track rates. So we'll do B2 colon B58. And enter. And we see that they're all on track, which makes sense because they have an A average. We wouldn't expect anything different. So then we can do the same thing for the next row. So we want to check our formula from B. We see that it is 59 to 145. So we do equals average B 59 colon B 145. And the B students are 95% on track. And then one of the things we can do, if we don't want to keep looking and copying, we can just copy this formula, put it down next to the C's, and instead of counting, we're going to change this to average, and instead of column F, we're going to change it to B. We're starting to go down in our proportion. The C average students are only 57% on track.
How do you know, did you just remember how far down each one went?
Yeah, so I'm doing it by looking at the formulas here. So from when we hand went down and we visually knew that it changed at between 58 and 59, then so I'm just looking back at that formula to get that again. So we're just changing the function and changing the column. Uh-huh. So yeah, one of the things that you should be able to look through once you have these done is then go through and make sure that you got everyone. So we can see for the first one, average was B2 to 58. And the second one, I made an error. Should have gone B59 to 145. Let's see. Yeah, C started at 146. I'm not sure where that 153 came from. Yeah, so if we go back to our count ones, we can see we've got everybody, right? Let's confirm this first. So F2 to F58, F59 to F145, F146 to F247, F248 to F321, and F322 to F351. B2 to 58, 59 to 145, and this should be 146 to 254, and then 255, is that right? What? Okay, C is 146 to 247. 146 to 247. And D is 248 to 321. Oh, I think I know what happened. It was that same relative reference problem where when I copied them down, it added the number of cells that I pasted it down to. That is what happened. So this should be 22 to 51. There we go. Okay, so any questions on that so far?
Does it make sense for me to be here? I had class till 5, so I couldn't get here before, but am I going to be a little too lost?
No, it's okay. Yeah. Do you need a laptop?
No, I have one, but I like don't know anything about Excel, so I don't have any idea what's going on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you want to maybe just look on with her, because we're going to do a new calculation now, so you can start. So the next thing that we're going to do is chart. So what we're going to do to make a chart is we're going to make a new sheet. You can do that by pressing the little plus button there to make a new sheet. And what we're going to make a graph of is the differences in GPA averages between the two schools over time. So our first row is going to be Siskel School, and we're going to get the average GPA for 2013 and 2014. And then we're going to do the same thing for the Ebert School. So to fill in this first cell of Siskel in 2013, what we want to do is do an equal sign for our formula, and we're going to take the average, parentheses. Then we're going to switch down tabs down here to E 2013. Oh wait, S. So we started with Siskel, S 2013. And then we're going to highlight everything in this GPA column. So just start and drag down till you get to the end. And then hit enter. So, yep, equals average. And then And then you just click over and then put the parenthesis, and then click over to your S 2013 tab and drag down on the GPA column. We get to do it 4 times. So next we're going to do Siskel in 2014. We're going to do our equal sign, average, parenthesis, and we're going to click onto S 2014 and highlight the column. Scroll down until you get to the end. And then press enter. So looking at this to begin with, we can see that the Siskel school had an increase in GPA from basically 2.6 to 2.4 from 2013 to 2014. You guys got it? So yeah, I just made up this table of things that I wanted to know. So I created a new sheet and put Siskel and Ebert and 2013 and 14. And then I'm just, because we're doing this graph on a new sheet, I'm just going to the other pages to collect the source data for our graph.
So how do you get, so I'm just having issues, like I do equals average, and then how do I get it so I can highlight on the other sheet?
Put the open parentheses.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Does the open parentheses have a space in between them?
No, just the open parentheses and then click wherever you want to go to, and it'll start highlighting. So one thing that's tricky about this one that fortunately doesn't apply to your homework is that we have a different number of students in each of these measures. So that's why you have to scroll down and see how far it goes. Now in, I believe in your homework data, it's just a sample of 100 students from each school. So when you're typing these formulas, you can just put 2 to 101, and that'll be a little bit simpler. But in these ones, we have to scroll down to see and make sure that we're including all those students. Okay, are we ready to add the chart? So we're going to highlight these 9 cells that we have here. And we're going to go to Insert. And then there's this chart options over here. We're going to pick the lines. And this one that has, this very first one that has 2 lines. Because we want a line for Siskel and a line for Ebert. So it's not super exciting because we only have 2 data points for each one. But it is pretty interesting that that Ebert started out with a lower average GPA and really jumped just in 1 year in 2014. And while Siskel increased, it seems probably more like a just regular expected, fluctuations that happen from year to year. But given how much more Ebert increased rather than Siskel, we might think, oh, that might be a really significant increase. And if you were writing up your findings, you could say, while Siskel increased from 2013 to 2014, Ebert had a much higher, steeper increase by whatever, 3.5 GPA points, whereas Siskel only increased by 0.2 GPA points. And that kind of stuff is what we're going to be looking for in the homework.
Can you go over how you look at the chart we were behind?
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and delete it and do it again. So we're going to start by highlighting the data that we want to make a chart from. Then we're going to go to the Insert tab and find the Charts section. There's a lot of different chart options here. We're going to go with the line chart. And this very first one here, the 2D line chart, and just click it, and there it goes. Now, when I first was planning this example, I had them switched. I put 2013 on the column, the year on the column, and the schools side by side. And so I ended up initially with a chart that looked like that, where it was comparing the years rather than comparing the schools. And so that was not what I wanted. And so this has been invaluable to me in working with Excel charts. If something looks like this doesn't seem set up quite like what I want to be comparing, try the switch column/row button. It does not always work. Sometimes you need to restructure what you're doing and figure out a different way to put it together. But often that is a way that can help make more sense of what's going on. Also, if you do run into problems and you're having trouble, it's not selecting, you're highlighting and it's for some reason put, Siskel on the y-axis, even though that's supposed to be GPA, what you can do is go to select data. And so you can see your series and your horizontal axis and your data. And so this is the button that does the switch column and row. And you can change what you want your categories to be, what you want your, the series are the lines. So if you, for example, wanted a line for on-track males, on-track females, off-track males, and off-track females, then that would be 4 different series that you would have. And then you can edit and select which data you want to be charted there. Yeah, it is the select data. So I wanted to show you one other type of chart that you might want to make, and go back to our first tab with our frequency chart. And we can just make a simple bar chart of the frequencies here. So again, we're going to highlight our data that we want to put in a chart, insert chart, and then this time we're going to pick a bar chart. Again, it's the very first one. And then we can see here that there were 57 A students, B, C, D. It's actually pretty bell curvy. I feel like with grade inflation, I always assume that everybody's just skewed over to the A's and B's. And if we did one for SSA, that would be the case. But that's just because you guys are all so smart. If you want to change things, you can edit right in here. So by clicking on the chart title, you can say frequency chart of GPA category. And then you can also, there's a number of different other options here. So you can label the data so that it'll show the frequency on each of the bars. You can have access titles to label what each of these is. So you can do number of students. So highlight what you want and then go to insert. Then there's the charts. Click it and it'll give you some options.
And then how did you start editing the
this little plus sign here. Oh, the title, you just click on the title and double click on it and it'll highlight.
That little plus sign was just there already, you didn't have to
Mm-mm. And when you just click on the chart, it appears the plus sign. I don't know what these other ones are. This gets into the select data options. This, you can change the color and style and stuff like that. I think, is there like a little menu that pops up once you create a chart with some different options in it, maybe?
You can double click. Oh yeah, you can. So if you double click, there's a format chart for you, and then the alt text. You can
Do you think you can explain that again?
So if you double click on the chart, there's options that come up, just like the copy, paste options, but then there's also a format chart area. And if you were to click on that, there's options on the left-hand side. At the very bottom, it says alt text. And if you click on that, there's a place where you can do the title and the description. I'm at format chart area, but I don't have a alt text option. Perfect. Also, I haven't updated my computer in a very long time. So my options are probably different. I don't know why mine hasn't changed that. Oh, I found it. Okay. So.
Okay, so that was the stuff that I had planned. You know, there's lots of different charts you could make. You could continue this process for all the other tabs. You can, you know, decide on different things that you want to chart. But those are pretty much the basics. And hopefully those will be the main formulas that you'll be using. You'll be taking some averages, doing some sums in order to take averages, and then figuring out how many people are in each of these different categories to populate the sections of the table that's provided in your homework. Yeah. And then did you have specific questions from your group?
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to elaborate because I didn't do this.
Right, okay.
I was trying to understand their questions, but I'm going to try this.
Okay.
They asked about rounding, so I think they were just asking to what place are we rounding?
That is probably a Cali confirmation question, but I think that 2 decimal places is generally adequate. Because then when you get into too many, it makes charts more difficult to read, and yeah.
There's a question apparently on here that asks about the on-track mean, and they were asking what that is referring to.
So that would be just taking the average of the on-track values, just like we did here. So because because on-track is either 0 or 1, it's actually taking the average does 2 different things. So taking the average of the group of people that are on track will tell you the proportion of them that are on track. So it's both the average, because you can only be on track or not on track. By taking the average, you're just saying what proportion of people in this group are on track.
So for A, it's 100%.
Yeah. So you can kind of see where the, if you recall from the reports about AVID, that the purpose of that was to target these middle range students. So you can see the only place where there's much opportunity to like really add people, move people from off track to on track is in the C average people, which is not to say that the D and F people are hopeless, but there's just a lot more variation and possibility that if you're C average, you might be on track, you might be not on track, but you know, it would be a good place to try and target for their efforts to get more people on track.
The other question I really couldn't articulate, I'm not sure what they're asking, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
Or make them email you.
Yeah, they can. Okay. Any other questions?